play for the love of the game, man. What's wrong with you, bro? Money should not be a thing. Bro, I'm risking my life. If I get the Rona, guess what happens with that? Like, bro, I'm not playing unless I get mine.
Big news and the big games covered in the Big Ten by the Armchair Quarterbacks all year long.
Third down and about 22. As Smith drops the throw, he's got his tight end open, but he's got Carter downfield, and he's gone. Michigan leads the game with a first touchdown on a bullet, a bomb to Carter, 71 yards.
Now State's lead 7-3. There he goes. So long. Ohio State touchdown.
That's that old 1-2 punch. You fake to him the first time, he's going to have it the second time.
In his career, Lorenzo White 15 times rushed for 100 yards in a half. 5 of those this season. On 2nd and 10. Long throw to Ryson, and he's open all the way to the 6-yard line.
Big Ten football covered in the Southeast by the Armchair Quarterbacks.
This is Jim Rome. Join me in the jungle for your phone calls and the biggest names in sports. Stop by weekdays, noon until 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific.
It all starts with just one thing. Get to know your local beekeeper. You can make sure they don't use chemicals in the hive, that they only sell surplus honey, plus locally produced honeys have a smaller carbon footprint. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
Gets the Armchair Quarterbacks right here on CBS Sports Radio. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports here on the First Coast.
The sun came out today.
Dread running to the post office? Stamps.com brings post office and UPS services right to your computer. Send letters, ship packages, and get up to 40% off USPS and up to 62% off UPS rates. Nearly 1 million small businesses use Stamps.com to save time and money. It's a no-brainer. So skip the post office and visit Stamps.com. Use promo code LISTEN for a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. That's Stamps.com, promo code LISTEN.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by The Best Things in Life, which are still free with minimum purchase at participating dealers.
Hi, this is Britney Spears.
What up, this Jay-Z.
This is Jennifer Lopez. Armchair.
It looks like you have to guzzle your juice down without any ice. Pretend it's gin.
What's gin?
Gin is an alcoholic beverage, which if your mommy's strong genes are any indication, you'll eventually learn to love as it slowly destroys a giant portion of your adult life.
Good morning. Welcome to Gators and Golf with Tony Aguilino and the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show. Tony, how the hell are you this morning, sir?
Doing well, man. Happy Friday. How are you?
I'd be doing a little better if the Lady Seminoles had found out a way to shock the world and beat Oklahoma, but I kind of saw that buzzsaw coming, man. I'll tell you what, that Oklahoma team's got a lot of offense. The only good news, Florida State fans, is that although they're going to lose 5 girls, most likely, most of them are leaving. A couple of them have options. They could stay because of COVID. That's a really young team that's going to be coming back. And so Florida State should have a lot of good years ahead. I really enjoyed the entire playoff run with softball. I don't know if I could say that if I didn't have a dog in the hunt, right? But I have become more and more of a softball fan. We're going to get into college baseball, which the super regionals start today. But before we do that, Sullivan from the University of Florida came out with a statement basically saying, I'm not going anywhere. What say you on the matter?
I was a little surprised to see a statement because usually Florida hasn't done that a lot with this past off season, there were some rumors with Mullen and the NFL, and they never really did anything with it. I was a little surprised to actually see a statement with O'Sullivan's name attached to it, but I never really thought he was going to LSU. It's just that's not a good real spot for him. I know they have much better fan support, and travel like crazy and all that kind of stuff. But that athletic department right now is a kind of a hot mess. And it sounds like LSU is going after the formerly retired Oregon State coach who won a national title out there, and I think played for one or two more. And he's been out of the game for a couple of years. Still a really good coach. But I think 2022 is a big year for Sullivan. I think there's some things within the program that need to change. Not just because of last weekend. I just think the kind of killer instinct or the mental toughness in that dugout's not really there. And I don't know if it's coming from leadership or having too many kind of I call them country club baseball players, where you got a bunch of kids that it's the opposite of Tennessee, where like Tennessee has great players too, but the Tennessee kids have an edge to them. I don't know. There's like two kids on this Florida roster that play all the time that have an edge to them. Tommy Mace and Jacob Young from Ponte Vedra, and Jacob Young plays left field. Mace, obviously, a pitcher. They need more dogs, and it just kind of the last year or two,
like Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, more gritty kids. It just seems like this year and then last year, even in the shortened season, we did really well. But the first time we played a real team last year, not named Miami, we lost to FSU. Just find some toughness, I think, is maybe the key word for it. So I don't know if it comes from off-season conditioning or if it comes from how the dugout's handled. It's a 60 games is a long season for college baseball. It doesn't seem like much compared to the pros, but it does tend to drag. And if you've got a locker room that drags, it kind of carries over. So
if it makes you feel any better, that Florida State team that you lost to was absolutely terrible. And I don't even know how they made it a game against Ole Miss Saturday night, but in a couple of really bad defensive cues, blew that game for them. But you think you're concerned in Gainesville? 5.5 is not doing nearly as good a job as 11 was. And
yeah, and next year's a big year for him too, because FSU's does have that bigger baseball fan base, and a couple years of
I think it's a huge year for him next year because he got the pass because of COVID this year, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. The next year is going to be the first year where you can say, okay, ready, set, go. And if he does another, because we know Florida State's most likely going to make the playoffs. Making the playoffs is not going to keep your job at Florida State, or at least it shouldn't.
Right. You got to get back to the key is hosting, and it obviously didn't work out for us last week, but FSU's a school that should be hosting every year. Right. Miami's probably most years they should be hosting as well. They've had kind of a talent. They're not any good either. It was a horrible year for state baseball. I mean, if USF is your
South Florida came out of that regional where Florida and Miami were
yeah.
I thought when I saw it, I was like, well, the only good thing is I know they both can't make it. And then South Florida, I was like, get the hell out of there. How the hell did they pull that off?
And to be honest, yeah. And to be honest with you, South Alabama, who had not hit all season long, destroyed everybody that they faced except for Miami in the first game. They lost 1-0. But, the two best teams in that regional turned out to be South Alabama and USF. But, yeah, it was a brutal year for baseball in the state of Florida college-wise. If USF is your flagship headed to the Super Regionals, then there's some issues because really – we talked about it last week. They barely beat UCF to even get in, and the best team in that conference was East Carolina, and they're hosting a regional this weekend. So, they're traveling to Vanderbilt. It was just kind of a brutal year all around, a tough ending for Florida, obviously, and there's lots of work to do. I know we caught some heat for not having a lot of people there. Noon on a Friday, and the sun's not probably the best start time for us. I hope to God we don't choose that again like we've done the last couple times. I think it would have been a fun night Saturday, Florida, Miami in prime time with a packed house, but we'll never know because neither team got to that point. So,
right. The College World Series Super Regionals do start today, even though we were not invited to the dance, either one of us. But we still move on. Do you still have interest in it, or do you when will the pain dull for you to actually pay attention? I guess
I'll pay attention this weekend. Mostly because these matchups are great. There's like a couple that I'm not that interested in, but most of them I am.
I love the Knoxville Regional. The Knoxville Regional is fun.
It's gonna be awesome. And Tennessee's doing a lot to get people to go, even if they can't get into the game, because that place only seats like 3,500 or something like that, and they're going to sell standing room only to try and get as many people in there. And I'm sure the fire department will take the day off from over there. But
COVID's over, people.
Yeah. But I mean, they're going to have a giant TV outside if anybody wants to come watch it. And if they're not in the stadium, they can come hang out with other Tennessee fans. And it's cool because it's LSU who kind of had to play the, hey, our coach is going to step down card even to get into the tournament, because they brought in LSU and Alabama, left out Georgia. They could have easily left out LSU and brought in Alabama and Georgia. So that one's going to be awesome. I don't think Maneri and Vito have a lot of love for each other. And obviously, Tennessee will make it tough. Tennessee made it tough enough on us with just like 300 people at the game, or however many was up there a few months ago. But now with a packed house, they'll make it really tough on LSU. The best part is LSU fans going to have a hard time even getting into that stadium unless you're friends and family with the players. But yeah, no, I'm totally interested. I think Arizona Ole Miss is going to be a great series. USF Texas is kind of the only one that I'm not really all that interested in, because I think Texas will cakewalk them. But the rest of these are pretty evenly matched up.
Notre Dame, Mississippi State.
Yep,
Notre Dame, Mississippi State, Knoxville, or Tennessee, LSU. Those are the two that I'm interested in today. I get that Dallas Baptist is good. I just don't know anything about them realistically. And I don't hate or like Virginia enough to pay attention to that.
Yeah, and that one will have the weirdest atmosphere because they've got to play that in Columbia, South Carolina. So that's not going to be obviously a heavily populated series.
I'm sorry, those two start tomorrow. Excuse me. Today, yeah. East Carolina, Vanderbilt.
That'll be good.
NC State, Arkansas. I don't know if that'll be good or not, because NC State I don't think belongs there, and they might get their doors blown off. But I will watch it. If it's competitive, it'll make it fun. But if it is what I think it's going to be, it could get really ugly really quick.
You're talking about fan support. That Arkansas NC State game, NC State, they kind of snuck out of the region, although I had a feeling they might get out of that one. Watch that Arkansas game and watch how many people show up for that. They get like 11 or 12,000 people for a baseball game out there.
I was really hoping A&M would host one, because after I saw a video about a couple of weeks ago, I'm very interested in Texas A&M baseball, because have you seen this thing that they do with the pitches? I mean, if there's a 4-pitch walk at Texas A&M.
No.
All right, so I hadn't either.
We didn't see a lot of those this year.
Right? No, I know, but I had never seen this, and I guess it doesn't. Obviously, that doesn't come out very often. I wonder. From my understanding, it's only in a 4-pitch walk, according to the broadcasters in the film. Now, if they do it every walk, then forget what the hell I'm saying. But a 4-pitch walk, or 4 consecutive pitches in a walk, maybe if the guy's up like 0-1 and then ends up walking. After that, the next guy that comes up to bat, the entire crowd starts chanting before the next pitch, ball 5, ball 5, ball 5. And then until that guy pitches a strike, which the video I saw, he got all the way to ball 8 and then finally threw a strike. And then they give him like the old Bronx cheer.
Right. They go nuts.
Right. But it's funny as hell. And like, that's what I love about college baseball. It's just like the animals at Florida State.
Right.
It's like some of their antics. That's what I love about college baseball. It's so different from Major League Baseball. It's more of, for people who've never really watched it, the best way I can explain is college baseball and college softball, for that matter, not quite to the degree, because it's just starting to build its own base. It's more almost like a soccer crowd in Europe than anything else.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. And Texas A&M will be back. They their coach stepped down, and they just hired the TCU coach the other day, so they'll be back sooner rather than later as well. But yeah, Bluebell Park's nice. In fact, they're actually going to dump some money into that and try and expand it a little bit. That's a really nice park from what I've heard too. Some of these baseball parks nowadays, I mean, like I said, we just built the $60 million one, and there's a couple of things I wouldn't have done with it, and there's a couple of things that they did that I didn't think of, but they're building these kind of cathedrals left and right, especially in the SEC and in the ACC. They've got some really nice stadiums too. But yeah, I mean, the game's never been in a better position. All these teams are loaded. There's going to be a lot of loaded teams next year because of all the roster inflation due to COVID the last year or two. So next year will be another premier year for college baseball for a lot of kids coming back that ordinarily wouldn't.
Is there, okay, so talking about this weekend, is there a one team out there that you would consider a true Cinderella that you think could actually make the dance out in Omaha?
Cool. NC State might be the only one that I would pick, and that's only because the number one seed has never really handled the entire process very well to get even like to the College World Series championship. They do typically get to Omaha, but there's been some times where they've been knocked off. The others are so evenly matched. I think Tennessee is going to be really good this weekend. They hit a ton of home runs. It's a little bit of a smaller ballpark. I think they'll just bash LSU as far as the playing big ball versus, LSU going with base hits. If LSU does happen to sneak out of that super, I think they're built to be okay in Omaha. They're not a big power team. In Omaha, you got to get base hits, hit to the gaps, and occasionally get a home run, but you can't live off of big ball out in that big ballpark there. And I think that's why Tennessee's in a good position to get out this weekend, because they hit a lot of home runs in that ballpark. The others, East Carolina, if they can get to either Rocker or Leiter, they can sneak out of there. They can really hit. If O'Sullivan did leave, the ECU coach is on my top three of guys. He's coached in the SEC. He's coached in Florida before.
By the way, I did find something interesting when Sullivan said what he said, and I want to pull up his quote because it was the wording. I am the head coach at the University of Florida and remain fully committed to the Gators program. This is where I want to be. And, he's saying all the right things. I do not have interest in the head coaching openings at any other schools. And just by the way he said that, could he possibly be thinking about leaving to go to Major League Baseball in some kind of capacity? Or do you think these guys, once they get into college coaching, they're just kind of out of their element and there's no desire to kind of pay your dues in Major League Baseball?
I think, and I saw your tweet yesterday, and actually I didn't even think of that until you mentioned it yesterday.
Because I would have thought he would have said, I don't want to be anywhere else. This is, you know what I mean? This is my home. I've won a national championship here. Get off me. But he said, I don't want to be any other schools. And I was just like, okay, maybe I'm overreading it, but maybe I've had too many Jimbo Fishers in my life.
I think I think it's a good point. And I think at this point in time, I think he's pretty set on being in Florida, but who knows, in a year from now, things could change. And I don't think being a manager at the major league level is necessarily his goal. I think, he's got that huge contract in Florida. Obviously money's not going to be an issue for a long time for him. So if that's the case, you can go into the majors and be a pitching coach. That's really his passion. I mean, the problem with going to the majors, he's not going to be the one calling every single pitch and kind of micromanaging everybody like they do now from a pitching standpoint in college.
You think the way I do that once these guys get into college coaching, pretty much their aspirations of Major League Baseball are over.
The only time these guys, if he weren't to leave on his own accord, or if it's another year where you just kind of ho hum through the regionals and get to and barbecued, maybe he takes a few years as a scout, which I've seen college coaches do, just to kind of get that experience and then kind of go from there. I don't know if he loves pro baseball. He's a big Yankees guy, which is why we wear a lot of pinstripes and that kind of thing. But that wouldn't be out of the. At some point, going to like a 14-year-old kid's family, which is how you have to do it in college baseball. Like you start these kids young, just like basketball. At some point, getting into a 14-year-old kid's living room and telling him how great it is, that I still think that wears on a lot of guys. But at schools like Florida State, Florida, Miami, those schools recruit themselves. Like I have no, there's no panic in me that the next coach at Florida, or even for you with 5.5, the next coach at Florida State, those guys are going to recruit like crazy, just like they do now. It's just, develop the guys once they get there and go.
Fans have asked me both of Florida State and non-Florida State, what do you think about Mark Martin Jr.? And the jury's still out, but I'll be honest with you. And I said this when Mike Martin retired, I wanted new blood in the program. Mm-hmm. It's not that he's doing a terrible job, because I do watch him when they're playing. In other words, I watch what he's doing, pay attention to what he's doing. And I think he's got a lot of fire. I think he's got more fire than his dad did for the last 10 years of his career, right? But that probably just comes down to personalities. I want, to be honest with you, now it'd be great if he could do something and but I want to see new blood in that program. But he's definitely a guy that if he doesn't make it in college baseball, it's a wrap. Like once you get, it's different between college football and the NFL.
Right.
There have been, there's not a lot of examples of guys leaving college baseball and having any kind of a career in the majors, because it's like you said, it's a different type of coaching.
Yeah, like isn't Dick Hauser's like the only one, isn't he?
That's the only one I can really think of. La Russa, people always want to point to La Russa. He spent very small amount of time as a grad assistant at Florida State before he went and coached to the majors. And he only did that because he went to Florida State. So it's just like most of them, and I'm sure there's examples, but not like, in other words, there's not Sullivans, there's not Martins, there's not like guys who'd been there a while, built a name and said, all right, I'm out of here, guys. Normally they just say, why the hell am I leaving? I've got a good life. They're not going to fire me. Right. I'm staying where I'm at. If I could take the Indians job and we don't win the pennant in 3 or 4 years, they're going to start knocking on my door. So the money better be worth it. Not to mention the fact 162 game schedule.
Yeah.
That's a big difference between 50 games, right?
Yeah, and you don't get to stock the cabinet either on a top 5 recruiting class.
You have no idea what you're going to inherit sometimes when you go to Major League Baseball.
Yeah, Pat McMahon was the coach before Florida, and when he that was a mutual thing with Florida was ready to move in a new direction, and McMahon had kind of served his purpose, and he went into the Yankees front office. I think he's still with them. If not, he's retired because he's getting up there. But that's the move for a lot of these guys. Like you're not going to go, coach be the manager of the Port St. Lucie Mets and work your way up from there. You're probably going to go to either scouting or the front office or be an analyst or something like that, and then maybe go from there. But it's a good question on Sully. Like you said, I didn't really put 2 and 2 together on the wording either, but I think maybe there is something to that. Like I said, if we struggle in 2022 and some loose ends aren't tied up within the program, then that might be the next step for him when they just kind of take evaluation of where the program stands. But I do want to see what happens with this new ballpark when they can actually have 100% capacity and actually promote things and have, how these teams like to have kind of a minor league feel to them, where they have bark at the park and bring your dog and all that kind of stuff. They didn't get to do any of that at any of these stadiums, but for whatever reason, Florida's the only one that could only get 2,500 or 3,000 a game, where Arkansas can get like 12. So part of it's building that culture. It's never been the cool thing to do at Florida is for the locals to go to college baseball. And I'll never understand it and I'm not the patron saint of Gator fans, but if I can drive an hour and a half, once a weekend and at least catch one game, I don't understand why somebody who's 15 minutes away can't do the same thing. But
I just think some people are baseball fans and some people aren't. It really comes down to, if I lived right next to Tallahassee, I would definitely go to Florida State baseball.
Yeah.
Game. But
that's awesome. What better way to spend the evening?
Right. But at the same token, 3 hours is a long trip to go watch a baseball game, and you're basically turning into a 9-hour day minimum.
Yeah, and if you're going for a supers, you're going to stay down there or stay over there. For me, we're spoiled. I'm there in an hour and a half.
I missed the Florida State Florida game this year. I've been to many of those, and I hope it comes back to Jacksonville.
Yeah, it will. Soon as the city can make more money off of it, it's coming right back here.
All right, moving on before we run out of time, because we only got a few minutes left here. Actually, we only got the U.S. Open. We're looking at some big names: Ricky Fowler, Keegan Bradley, Jason Day, Duffner, Patrick Harrington, Snedeker, among others, who will not be in the U.S. Open. What say you on this? Because I'm terribly disappointed that a lot of those names are not going to be in there.
Yeah, it's funny. Fowler and Snedeker have actually played well lately. It was too little, too late trying to get them into the top 60. And you can play your way in. They call this past Monday the longest day in golf, which is where you have all these U.S. Open qualifiers. And apparently the Columbus one was the big one. They had like a 12-guy playoff at the end, and it was Fowler and Bradley, and I think Day were all involved in that. Day's had some back issues, so I don't think he minds missing the U.S. Open.
I know, but just for star power, I think it hurts it, because you already don't have Tiger, obviously. Right. The big draw would be if Phil Mickelson can do anything in his hometown. Plus, that's the one major that's been hanging over his head. But let's say he goes out and does typical Phil Mickelson type things and doesn't make the cut or something. It hurts it. The Jason Day, I think, shocked me the most, just being an outsider, looking.
His is just more injury based. That back is just it's not being consistent with him. He'll play good 1 week and then he'll have to take like 6 weeks off. They're also expecting a baby like in the next week or two as well.
And Ricky Fowler.
Yeah.
He has become the Anna Kournikova of golf.
That's a good comparison.
Where he's done nothing, but he gets all the sponsors and everyone loves him. And he's not going to make the U.S. Open. I was a fan of Fowler just because for the longest time when I was getting back into golf several years ago, I could figure out who he was. It was kind of like why I liked Tony Stewart in NASCAR, because I was like, well, that bright orange car, I know which one his is. Well, Ricky Fowler was always dressing like a jackass, and I was like, okay, well, at least I know which one he is on the course, so I'll pull for him. It's exhausting pulling for him because he's rarely even in the conversation.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have gotten into the PGA Championship except they gave him an exemption. So really, that would have been.
And it's his fault that I'm his fan, because when he won the TPC, that just added to my moronic fanhood. I should have never jumped on his bandwagon, because now I pull for him. I'm like, where is he? Where is he?
Yeah, if you can get that one win, it gets you back into everything else pretty much. If he can just do that at some point, that would be big. But yeah,
at least be in the final, top 5 of a major. He's just never there.
Yeah, and then Keegan was in that playoff too. He just missed it. Ben Taylor's the guy's name. Ben Taylor eagled from the fairway on a par 4 and really knocked all these guys out. Only one guy was going to advance, but of all things, that's what happened, and that's how Ben Taylor got in, and these other guys did it. But there is a lot of drama on Monday. I caught a little bit of the show on Golf Channel. I obviously didn't watch it all day, but it is pretty cool. It's you've got some pros trying to qualify with just some random really good players. There's a friend of mine's a golf pro down at Ironwood in Gainesville. He was in the qualifier down in Orlando a few weeks ago and didn't make it out. And it's high pressure. As soon as you make a bogey, you're done, because all these other guys aren't going to shoot above par on any of these holes. So it's a crazy day.
I wish I had known that it was going on. It snuck up on me. By the time I found out about it, like the news was already out of who was missing the cut.
It's really neat. I mean, if I was worth the crap, you'd see me out here. But
Kepka says that his DeChambeau rivalry is good for golf. Do you agree, or do you think it's?
I like it. I think it keeps it fun. I was watching Kepka a little bit last night playing this course where they're having this Palmetto Classic. They're only having this because there's no Canadian Open this year.
Right.
No one's really played this course before, I don't think, unless they snuck out there before. And basically, the course is owned by like 2 billionaires. They're the only 2 members, but as long as you have enough money and you get on with them, I guess you can go play it. So these guys, none of these guys could putt yesterday. These greens look like they're impossible. So I think these are just guys trying to kind of get ready for next week. A lot of guys have this week off, but it's funny. I was watching Kepka in the first hole. I watched he 4-putted, but I think that was more of where the pin was and that green. But I think like I said, a lot of these guys are just playing it. Either they're from South Carolina, like the top 6 guys on the leaderboard. I think 4 of them have some kind of connection to South Carolina. So, but yeah, next week's going to be awesome. I do wish a couple of these guys were in it, but Torrey Pines, it's that course is such a superstar course that everybody's going to have a shot. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
We're out of time. What is your walk-off for the day, sir?
Man, I'm just gonna enjoy these super regionals. Like you said, both our teams are out, so we can just kind of put our feet up. I find myself rooting for Tennessee, which doesn't happen a whole lot, but I despise LSU baseball that much. And then maybe Tennessee will go 0-2 in a barbecue in Omaha. But Tennessee has been to Omaha, I think, since 2005. So I think that'd be a cool story.
I swear it feels like yesterday that they were in it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's essentially the team I'm pulling for. There's a couple others that I'd like to see do well, but that's the team that I'm
the sooner Vandy loses, the better. Other than that, I don't really have a team on there. I'm
not anti-Vanderbilt like you are. I'll pull for them.
Plus, they suck it. That's my walk-off. Have a good one, man.
Lighter, baby. Come on, lighter. All right, we'll see you next Friday.
Yep, you got it.
We're coming up live at the bottom of the hour. Check us on Armchair Quarterbacks Live, 8:30 Eastern.